I should have known something was off when my mom called me responsible for the third time that month. That word, in our house, was usually code for Lisa. We're about to take advantage of you again. Growing up with a sister like Rachel was like starring in a movie where you're the unpaid extra in the background while she's Beyoncé in every scene. She got the bigger birthday parties, the louder praise, and of course, the benefit of every doubt. I didn't mind at first. I liked flying under the radar. It gave me room to build something for myself. While Rachel was bouncing from failed startup to failed relationship, I was working, saving, planning, and boy, did I plan. By 27, I had saved over $80,000, not from some magic windfall or rich uncle, just from working 2 jobs, living cheap, and avoiding the chaos that seemed to follow my sister like perfume. And I kept my savings in a joint account with my parents. Yes, I know. Dumb. But when I first opened it at 19, my dad said, "We'll help you manage it. You're young." At the time, that sounded like love. Now, it sounds like a red flag wrapped in manipulation and topped with a bow of betrayal. It all unraveled the day Rachel announced her engagement to a guy named Trevor. Picture a golden retriever who thinks he's a CEO. Nice enough smile. Empty upstairs. My parents were ecstatic. Not because she was marrying the love of her life, but because, in their words, maybe this'll finally straighten her out. I remember blinking at them. Straighten her out? Was that code for finally get her to stop setting her car on fire with candles again? I didn't ask. Instead, I smiled. Because I was done competing. I had my own path. My savings were untouched. I was about to start looking for my first home. Then came the call. "Hey, sweetheart." My mom's voice came through the phone with a rehearsed warmth. "We had to make a little transfer from your account. Just a temporary thing." I stopped, breathing. "How much?" "Oh, nothing crazy. Just $35,000. Rachel had some credit card debt, and we didn't want her going into marriage with that hanging over her. $35,000. Gone. From my account." My throat went dry. "You used my money." Her tone sharpened, defensive. "It's not like you were using it, and you'll make it back. You always do. You're responsible, Lisa." There it was again. That word. As if it was a gift. As if being responsible gave them the right to steal. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I simply said, "Okay," and hung up. Then I made tea, sat on my couch, and began plotting. I didn't want the money back. Not immediately. I wanted something better. I wanted a memory. A moment no one would forget. You see, Rachel's wedding was going to be huge. Open bar, fancy venue, live band, a perfect stage, and I had a microphone waiting for me. But first, I had to play the part. For the next 5 months, I was the model sister, attending dress fittings, helping with flower arrangements, even pitching in to design the wedding website, the one with a "donate to our honeymoon" button. I smiled. I nodded. I paid for things no one thanked me for, but I never forgot. I watched Rachel brag about a new purse she bought, with what was, unknowingly to her, my money. I watched her laugh when my dad joked, "Good thing Lisa's so level-headed. Keeps this family afloat." They had no idea I had printed bank statements. Every transaction, every withdrawal, every lie, and I wasn't going to tell them. Not yet. The night before the wedding, during the rehearsal dinner, Rachel made a toast. She thanked everyone, her friends, her fiancé, her dog, everyone but me. My mother clinked her glass. And a special thank you to Lisa for always being the backbone of this family. I smiled, not at her, at the irony, because I was about to remove the spine. Back in my hotel room, I reviewed my plan. The speech, the timing, the audio files on the USB drive. I didn't just want to speak. I wanted to show. I wanted them to hear the sound of betrayal, to see the receipts, to remember the taste of shame with their champagne. When I finally closed my eyes that night, I dreamed of silence, the kind that follows a bombshell. The next day, the venue buzzed with excitement. Guests laughed. The band warmed up. Rachel glowed like a social media filter. I waited. I watched. And when it was finally time for speeches, I stood from my chair, champagne glass in hand, smile still painted on. The mic was warm. The silence was heavy. And in that moment, I began. I tapped the microphone twice. The sound echoed through the golden-lit ballroom, silencing the soft clink of cutlery and the lazy chatter of guests sipping overpriced wine. "Hi, everyone. I'm Lisa, Rachel's sister." A few polite claps, mostly from people who had no idea who I was. I just want to say how honored I am to be here today. Truly. I mean, how often do you get to celebrate a love story this debt-free? There were chuckles, laughter even. Rachel beamed, probably thinking I was about to praise her like everyone else had for the past 48 hours. "Oh, honey." I cleared my throat, and my voice changed. "See, being the responsible one in the family has its perks. You learn to keep receipts, literal ones, from the bank." Silence. I reached into my purse and pulled out a small clicker. Now I didn't bring a slideshow about our childhood. No embarrassing photos. I brought something better. Behind me, the projector screen lit up. Slide 1. Bank of Fairmount. Account holder, Lisa M. Reed Joint Access. Harold and Suzanne Reed murmurs started. I smiled. Now, some of you may be wondering, Lisa, why are you showing your bank statements at a wedding? And to that, I say, why not? After all, family is about trust. About honesty, right? I clicked to the next slide. A withdrawal. $35,000. Labeled, Loan for Rachel. I turned to my parents, who had gone pale. This is from the account I started when I was 19. The one I never touched, unless absolutely necessary. The one I was building so I could buy my own home. Someday. Alone. Guests turned toward them. My father adjusted his tie. My mother gave me a glare that could have melted concrete. But I wasn't done. Now, Rachel didn't know this. I'm sure she's as surprised as you all are. Isn't that right, Rach? She blinked, glass halfway to her lips. Trevor looked at her like someone who just found out his Tesla was leased, under a fake name. I clicked again. Slide 3. Rachel's credit card balance, paid in full. Guess who the bank traced the funds to? Spoiler alert, not my parents. You see, I continued, when I asked my mom why, she said, and I quote, "You're responsible, Lisa. You'll make it back." I let that hang in the air. A few guests chuckled nervously. Others just stared. Someone in the back muttered, "Damn." My mother stood up. "Lisa, that's enough." "Oh, I'm just getting started," I replied sweetly. "I mean, it's not every day you get to fund a wedding and not even get credited as a sponsor." I walked to the center of the floor, holding the mic like it was a dagger. For those of you who don't know, I wasn't asked to be maid of honor, not even a bridesmaid, but I still showed up. Because that's what I do. I show up. Even when it cost me $35,000, Rachel finally spoke. Her voice cracked. "I didn't know." I turned to her. Calm. Controlled. "I believe you. But that doesn't make it better. It makes it sadder." She looked down. Trevor, who had been checking his watch like he was waiting for an Uber, suddenly perked up. "What do you mean the money came from Lisa?" I ignored him. "I want you all to understand something," I said, scanning the room. "This isn't about money. It's about erasure. It's about being the backup plan, the ATM, the invisible support beam no one ever looks at until it's gone. A beat. Until now." Click final slide. A selfie of me, in front of a house. Sold sign in the yard. My name on the deed. Because while they were busy draining my savings, I was busy making other arrangements. This week I closed on a house, fully mine, not a single dime from them, and definitely not a dime for them. The applause started hesitant, then grew. Someone whistled. Another guest stood and clapped. It felt cinematic. I turned back to the bride and groom. "Congratulations, Rachel. I truly hope you're happy. I just wanted you to know what your happiness cost me. But don't worry, I've been reimbursed in full." And with that, I handed the mic back to the stunned DJ, gave my mother a little wink, and walked straight out of the ballroom. No tears, no rage, just perfect posture and quiet satisfaction. Outside, the night air felt cooler, crisper, like the world had just reset itself. But the aftermath? Oh, it was nuclear. My phone blew up before I even reached the car. Voicemails from my mom, furious. My dad, confused. Rachel, sobbing. Even Trevor called, demanding clarity about the funds. As if a man who didn't know the difference between APR and ATM could understand bank fraud. I turned off the phone. Back in my hotel room, I poured myself a drink. No toasts, just peace. I thought that would be the end, that I'd delivered my message and walked away clean. But the fallout had only just begun. Because weddings, you see, are full of cameras, guests with phones, a few with TikTok accounts, and a particularly nosy cousin who live-streamed the entire thing to her 38,000 followers. By the time I woke up the next morning, I was viral, and the entire internet was on my side. Waking up the morning after the wedding was like stepping into a different universe. My phone was buzzing nonstop. Messages, calls, notifications, a tidal wave of, "Did you see the video?" And "You're a legend," mixed with the inevitable, "How could you embarrass the family?" I poured myself a strong coffee and scrolled through the flood of comments on social media. People called me a hero. Some called me the sister everyone wishes they had. A few even suggested I should write a book. I smiled bitterly. Maybe I should. But as the initial wave of support surged, the reality hit. My parents were furious. My sister was crushed. And the family dinners, well, let's just say my invitation got lost in the mail. I expected backlash. I braced for cold shoulders and whispered conversations. But what I didn't expect was how quickly things would start to change. And not just for me. Within days, my parents contacted me, their voices softer, regret creeping through the usual sharpness. "Lisa, can we talk?" my mother asked over the phone. I let it ring, twice, then sent a text. "Only if you're ready to apologize." They weren't, so I moved on. I took that moment of public exposure and turned it into opportunity. I started sharing my story. Not just the wedding incident, but everything behind the scenes. The favoritism, the financial betrayals, the years of invisibility. I became a voice for those who felt overshadowed in their own families. People reached out, with their own stories of betrayal and resilience. I helped connect them with financial advisors, therapists, and even legal counsel, because sometimes the biggest revenge isn't about drama, it's about empowerment. Rachel, meanwhile, tried to rebuild her life amid the fallout. Trevor disappeared as quickly as he'd appeared, leaving behind more unanswered questions than love letters. And the debt? Well, let's just say it was never paid back. But I made sure the memories were paid forward. My parents, humbled and isolated, faced their own reckoning. No longer able to lean on my savings or my silence, they had to confront the consequences of their choices. Family gatherings became awkward, strained affairs where old wounds were exposed, and new boundaries set. Then came the day I received a letter in the mail. Thick, official-looking, and addressed to me personally. My parents were selling the house, the one I had always dreamed of buying, the one I had worked so hard to afford. I read the letter twice. They were unloading it at a loss, desperate for cash. The reason? They needed to pay off some unexpected expenses, which, as I later learned, included Rachel's legal fees from a messy breakup and Trevor's failed business venture. I could have been angry. I could have felt vindicated. But instead, I smiled. Because while they sold the house, I was already investing in a new one. A place where I was the architect of my future, where my bank statements were mine alone, and where my name was on every single door. At the next family event, a rare holiday gathering, I arrived with a sense of quiet victory. I wore a dress that fit perfectly, carried a gift that wasn't just wrapped in paper, but in purpose. Handed my parents a small box. Inside was the last check from my savings account, the remainder after the $35,000 they took. But it wasn't a gift. It was a contract, a condition. "I'm done being responsible for everyone else's mistakes," I said, voice steady, eyes locked on theirs. "If you want me in your lives, this is the down payment. There was silence, then tears, maybe remorse, maybe relief. I don't know. Because the greatest revenge I ever took wasn't about money or drama. It was about taking back control.